Welcome to yet another edition of Camden Before Dark. We have our illustrious guest, Yocontalie Jackson, and we are going to find out what makes her tick, the inner workings of her craft, her process, and what she's up to now. She's going to bring us all up to date. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you are here. Yeah, so for those of us who don't know, who soon will know, bring us, up to date with your background. Of course, you are a Camden native.
Yes, I am.
You are a product of this incredible metropolis. And what brought you to the music?
I actually started singing when I was 13. I would be at home, and my brother, I had 3 brothers, so I was the only girl. I loved music. I loved listening to the Jackson 5 growing up, and just all kinds of different types of music, James Brown. And my mother started going to church in Philadelphia. It was one of the mega churches. What we would consider a mega church today was a mega church back then, and that was the Met. The old Metropolitan Opera House, which is where the Philadelphia Orchestra would play and record. And so
they had church.
And they had
in
church.
The same facility.
The Metropolitan Opera House was no longer there.
Oh, okay.
They moved uptown in the Academy of Music, and so the Met was there, and it was church, and so it sat about 4,500 people. So at the age of 13, I started singing at the Met. And my mother, she wanted me to sing in the choir. So she introduced me to the director of the youth choir. And I didn't want to sing with the youth choir. And so my aunt, who was singing with the adult choir, the mass choir, asked my mother if she could take me to rehearsal with her. And she asked the director if I could audition. I auditioned, got in the mass choir, and I became one of their lead singers. So every Sunday, I was singing a lead with the mass choir. And the Met, which some people and many people may know, and you yourself may know, that was one of the most acoustically sound theaters in the country. And so for me, the sound was phenomenal, but I didn't realize how great the sound was until I was asked to sing at other places outside of the Met.
Sure. Did that early introduction to acoustic finery, did that spoil you to the degree that you find it difficult to sing in places that aren't up to spec? Because I know a lot of musicians, all conditions have to be perfect, or else they can't think, or they can't function, or they can't and I know a lot of vocalists who just will stage a protest.
So it didn't spoil me to that degree. However, I came up singing in church, and so because of that, individuals would ask me to sing at different churches. Some churches were small, what they would consider a storefront church.
Sure.
And then other churches were a little larger.
With questionable pianos
and everything else.
Tuning and things like that, yeah.
Yes, and so I was singing for the Lord. So I would just sing. But the more I had the opportunity to sing in places that really had great sound, I began to appreciate that opportunity more. So I'll put it that way.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So when was the transition from secular church singing to more contemporary levels of output and groups and presentations like that?
I would say when I came home from college, because when I turned 18, my mother took me to church, and we would have service like in the morning, afternoon, evening, and then revival during the week. So when I turned 18, I said I was done with church. I wasn't going to church anymore.
Right.
And however, after that, we're kind of doing that process. I began to sing a lot of different other stuff, R&B, songs,
Right.
and different types of music. I always loved jazz, so I began to sing jazz as well. So that was kind of like my turn. After about 4 years, I began to do gospel again, more gospel. But what I realized was that the ability that God gave me was not just for gospel. It was to sing all types of music.
Right.
And what I found was the music that I felt my voice was most comparable for, as relates to a fit, was jazz, some R&B, and of course gospel. But jazz for me, like with Nancy Wilson, Ella Fitzgerald and folk like that, I just love certain songs. And so a good friend of mine, Eric, and he's passed, he's since passed, he taught me my first jazz song, Lover Man. And when I sang Lover Man, I was like, wow, I like the tones, I like the way, I was able to move in the song, and I didn't have to work as hard. Whereas in gospel, you had to kind of, I don't want to say holler and scream, but you had to push.
You had to have pipes.
You had to have pipes. You had to
have
push.
projection.
You had to push in gospel, and and if you did that, folks was like, sing. With jazz, you could kind of, you could dance with jazz.
You have different
You could be
levels
smooth.
of, detail and subtlety and color, and you don't have to, be, at the peak all the time.
Right.
It's peaks and valleys. So what was your primary takeaway from gospel in terms of, technique or preparation or execution or anything like that?
So
your takeaway that you applied to jazz when you got to jazz.
it kind of tied me into like that West Coast sound, and that sound with jazz was kind of smooth, that I could do a lot of different things that I learned from gospel, peaks and valleys, as you mentioned, highs and lows, holding and extending those notes, long notes, and being able to do that in jazz, which I kind of, got from gospel, but control it more.
Well, interestingly enough, I've had a lot of experience playing with vocalists, and was mentored, by, a few. I could almost tell immediately someone singing jazz and their interpretation of jazz lyric, just their breath control, sustain, all of that interpretation. I can tell whether or not they had a gospel background. You can. It's just readily apparent that, some people either just picked it up and just started doing it, or if they started at a level where they were listening to Sarah Vaughan or Billie Holiday or Rosemary Clooney or Abby Lincoln or anybody like that, or if they really have the power to front a choir, or playing with an organ in church, or an out-of-tune piano, because sometimes you just have to roll with it.
Right.
That's what it is. And also, I can recognize that they've done that because of their ability to rise above it and not be, not to allow that to interfere with their ability to express themselves, completely.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think like a Layla Hathaway.
Yeah, I know.
Layla Hathaway, I mean, she has that versatility, and I would like to look at myself from that perspective, that I have the versatility to be able to do jazz well, to do gospel well, and the standard for me would be that I would have to do it just as well or better. If I'm going to do it.
Sure.
If I can't do it just as well or better, then I'm not going to do the song.
So you said that you compose music as well.
Yes.
Many, vocalists, they, They have producers, collaborators, things like that, and so they're not responsible for creating the framework that they like to present themselves in. So I really, have a penchant, for people who know what their strengths are, and they allow themselves, a platform for that. So what is your process in terms of writing? Do you write lyrics first, or you write music first, or do you do it all at once, or do you have a destination in, an end game, in sight?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the song. I mean, there are times when I might be laying in the bed and I'll hear something in my head, and it's like, okay, I need to get up, or I need to grab something, grab my phone and record it, because if not, I don't want to lose it, so it depends. There are times when I've done that just because I've heard like the whole thing in my head. And then I grab my phone and I would sing it, There are other times when I work with my nephew, Chris, and we've done a number of things together and collaborated. As a matter of fact, there's a song that I wrote called, as a matter of fact, it's interesting because it's neither gospel or jazz. It's actually a country western tune, and it's I Want a Man with a Tool Belt. Right. And so it was a good song, and I said to him, let's, I want to revisit it. I want to redo it. I know it needs like a hook in there, and some things I like to do differently. And so I shot it to him, and he, got in the keys and played, some things, shot it back to me. And so now I'm kind of living with it, for maybe another week or so, and then, kind of work through it like that. So it really depends. If I'm collaborating with someone, we'll maybe sit at the piano, we'll work through some things, live with it for a week or two, come back, add some things, and just go through the process until we get it where we want it. When we're ready to go in the studio, this is how I am when I go in the studio. I'm kind of like one and done. When I say one and done, I don't go in the studio to practice. I go in the studio to work, to drop, to do what I need to do, and get out. So when I'm going in the studio, I'm pretty much where I am. I know the song is completed. We're going in to record.
You've ironed out all the kinks.
Yeah.
All the decisions have been made.
Yeah.
You're not wasting money and
or time.
Or time.
Yeah.
So of course, I mean, as an artist, you know what suits you best, and what environment allows you to express yourself to the fullest. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you really knew that this wasn't for you? Say a polka gig, or some crazy folk music or something like that. That wow, I know this is not for me.
Yes. However, what I have learned, and just I call them teachable moments. And moving forward, I just really try to stay away from, if it's something that I really don't like, because I feel like when you sing or you play or whatever you do, because I also play percussions, so whatever you do, you really should like it. You really should enjoy it, so that you can enjoy what you're doing and your whole delivery. And I believe the people will feel that too, and when you're not feeling it and you're not like right there, the people can feel that as well and see that as well. So I've learned over time that if it's something that I really don't like and I really can't feel it, not to do it, regardless of what's involved, whether it's a friend, whether it's money, doesn't matter. If I can't enjoy what I'm doing, if I really don't feel it and it's something that I don't like, then I really need to stay away from it.